Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I thought I wouldn't do a makeup video or a beauty video. I'd rather discuss something that is a very personal topic and that I have been struggling with for years. But the gist of it is that last week I finally managed to get a formal ADHD diagnosis as an adult in the UK through NHS. It was a very, very long process, but I just needed to get it done. And I thought maybe it's something that some of you guys would benefit from. I know not everybody is ADHD, but yeah, I'll tell you my story. So I won't spend a lot of time on the childhood bit because I think it's not relevant, but I just want to establish the fact that I have had ADD since I was a child. So I was restless, always daydreaming, and just unable to focus on a lot of things. Now, the reason why I got away through my studies is because I was very smart, and that is one of the biggest issues, is that if as a child you're not struggling academically, nobody feels the need to help you with the other aspects of the disease. So because I always managed to get good grades, people everybody just assumed I would be fine. But they ignored the fact that I never turned in my homework, that I always forgot about things, that I was a bit disorganized, that I had my head in the clouds all of the time, and that 75% of my class time was spent daydreaming. When I was in kindergarten, I had teachers actually wait for me to talk and walk around the room before we got started because I needed to get that energy out. And when I was in high school, my chemistry teacher actually allowed me to roam around the class. So he would be giving the class and I would be roaming around the class because I wouldn't be able to sit still. So I got through all of that, and then in college, that was the first time that the ADHD word was put out there. So I had a college counselor, and she said that I was the textbook case for that. The only thing is that a lot of the people who are not very familiar with ADD would most easily be able to diagnose it in young boys, and they forget that sometimes in women it just the symptoms are a bit more different, that sometimes women are socialized in a way to repress some of the symptoms, to just cope with them, and so they're better at being more behaved and covering these up. But when I was in college, I had a candid discussion with the counselor, and then she said, yeah, you probably have that, because we had quite a few discussions, and she gave me quite a few methods to cope with it while I was in college. She eventually suggested some medicine, but I never went that route. We had a discussion with my mother at the time, and I remember she said, I don't want you to change your personality. You're very quirky, you're very weird, and all over the place, but I like you like that, and I don't want you to turn into some kind of zombie. So, got through college, got through work, but I have noticed that as I had a bit less flexibility in my schedule, it was just tougher and tougher for me to just deal with the day-to-day work, just because I have these very nice peak periods where I'm super focused on something, where I'm very, very into it. And then when it comes to doing boring tasks, there is no way you could get me to do that. When it comes to starting projects and managing the difficult part, I'm all up for it. I have unbelievable energy. When it comes to the day-to-day work or even closing a project, I often just let that fall through the cracks. So that was essentially a feedback that I had a lot of the time in my work throughout the years, and I've been working for over 10 years now. I've gotten away with it for the past 10 years that I've been working, just because my spikes are so high and so out of the chart that they make up for the dips that I have and for the lack of energy whenever it comes to something that I don't see as being interesting. But then as I got into consulting, which is mentally and physically very demanding, I felt that I just couldn't rest, that my brain is always stimulated, which is an amazing thing, and this is why I love this line of work. But then I just couldn't sleep because my brain wouldn't shut down, and that's how I started my journey trying to get a diagnosis. Now, people are very, very, very reluctant giving a diagnosis to adults. If it was not If it was not diagnosed as a child, it's very difficult. Now you guys know I spent all of my childhood and most of my adulthood in Morocco, where the condition is not very accepted or very widespread. So when I came here and I first talked to my GP, she said, yes, it's not going to be easy, you might need to go private. But I know that private doctors here are really good, but I needed that validation that I actually do have that diagnosis and I'm not just trying to make it up, because you know how there are a lot of parents who try to get they push for a diagnosis for their kids at a young age because they're very competitive and they want their kids to have extra time in exams. They want their kids to take medicine that helps them focus even more to get a bit of an advantage. And obviously you also have the kids who actually need the medicine to function. But I was no longer in any of that cases. I didn't need any of that. I wasn't going to abuse the drug just to get through exams and all of these kind of misuses that you see a lot of people have. And I also don't have any substance or dependency issues. So it wasn't going to be a replacement for some other issue. So I'm going now through my system. So I do have an app called System Online, which is the NHS app, where I get to see actually all my history. And so if I look at all my consultations, let's see how I started all of that. So in July 2018, that was about 1 month. Yeah, it was July 7th. Yeah, it was 1 month after I moved to the UK. I had just moved to my apartment. I went and registered with a GP practice, and in that same week I went there and I told them what my problem was, and then they said, oh, it's probably insomnia and you're trying to adapt to your new environment, you just arrived, etc., etc. And so at that time they put me on some very strong, I'm just looking here at the prescriptions that I had, they put me on promethazine hydrochloride. Don't use any of my what I'm saying here as medical advice, because I'm very aware that I shouldn't be saying drugs names so that people don't go and try to take that, but I also feel that it's important for you guys to know how messed up my whole diagnosis was. So at first she said, go and take over-the-counter medicine that is meant for sleeping. So I took the Nitol, I took some melatonin, anything that I could find at Boots, I took. None of that worked. So she put me on something very strong called promethazine hydrochloride, which is a very strong sleeping medicine. I think sometimes they use it also for hay fever and things like that. It made me very drowsy, and I managed to sleep, but I felt groggy the entire following day. So that didn't work. I used that throughout August. Then I decided to stop that, and then went through another bout of insomnia. I was very agitated during the day. I couldn't do much, and so I just started taking again like magnesium and all these kind of over-the-counter medicine. So that was all the time between August going all the way through the month of December. Then when that really didn't work and my GP saw physically how exhausted I was and mentally how I wasn't even able to compose my thoughts, in January, first week of January, she prescribed mirtazapine. So mirtazapine is an antidepressant. It's mostly used to treat depression, but one of the side effects is that it just knocks you down and you just sleep. And so I was going to use that at night as my sleeping pill instead of the ones that were meant for allergies, where the side effect was also making you sleepy. That made me sleep very well, and I felt really good in the morning. I felt very well rested. But then I gained a lot of weight on that, and so I gained about between 14 and 17 kilos over my normal weight, and I'm 5'2", or like less than 1.60 meters, so it shows 16-17 kilos shows on my frame because I'm relatively petite. So I continued taking it. I got the prescription again, and then at some point I felt that it was really not good for me. I felt that I was reaching a point where my mental health went downhill, and I kind of recorded some bits where I just felt very dark. I had a journal on that. And then I said, okay, so all my life I have been living with being hyper, with having insomnia, having the foggy thinking. I never had to live with the fact of being overweight for my frame. And it's not about having an ideal weight, because I think my weight is ideal as it is. It's more about not being able to recognize my body. I just couldn't recognize my body. That really affected my self-esteem, that affected my morale, and I got depressed, which is very ironic because I was put on an anti-depression medicine for sleep, but I actually ended up getting the thing that it's meant to treat in other people. So okay, so we said, fine. My doctor decided to make that decision that we were going to stop mirtazapine. In parallel, they also put me on CBT. So I tried two things. It's cognitive behavioral therapy. So I went on a website. I forgot what it was called. I will put the link down below. It's a website where you just go, you log in, you explain all your sleep issues, and then you can do a self-paced thing such that you follow different sessions with somebody called the sleep doctor, and then you try to implement different changes in your life, like decluttering, like sleeping with the blinds open, like changing the time when you sleep, having certain habits, etc. And it's self-based cognitive behavioral therapy. So I went through lots of sessions of that. It helped a little with setting the routine. It didn't help with the sleep itself. Fine. So that I tried CBT, that is self-paced, on that website, which is free access to everybody. And then my GP said, okay, you know what? Let's refer you to professional CBT. And so I had to wait for my turn. She referred me. I applied to that mental health thing, waited for several months, and then eventually my turn came. And in parallel, I was also referred to do a diagnosis for ADHD. So for the cognitive behavioral therapy, I went for an initial assessment. I did 10 sessions. That means every week I went for a session to work through all my problems. That didn't work. Eventually they discharged me and sent me back to my GP. Yeah, I'm such a bad case. And I was put on citalopram. Citalopram is, I think it's for treating anxiety disorders and things like that. But what it is an SSRI, so selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor. And so if I were to take it first thing in the morning, it would actually help with the chemical balance in my head, such that I have a little bit of focus. And that's something that when it's not used for its traditional use, which is anxiety disorders, it actually is used as a palliative treatment when you still don't have the ADHD diagnosis. So a lot of people would actually have that to help with their mind if they're not having ADHD medication. So I was having that citalopram. I also had all the tests that were required for the pre-ADHD assessment, but then my GP surgery forgot to send these results to the assessment center. And after months and months, because I was put on citalopram in May, after months and months of waiting, I contacted the ADHD center and they said, we never received your results. So I had to go to the GP, get my results, scan them, and send them myself twice to make sure that they arrived. Eventually, I ended up having an appointment. They gave me an appointment for 3 months later, which is in October. I just had that appointment last week. And when I went, and as I was talking to the lady, the doctor, she almost started laughing. She said, you are textbook ADHD. I'm surprised nobody did the diagnosis before. And then I explained that I did have the diagnosis when I was in college. It's just that I didn't have the medicine for it. She said, I mean, it's very straightforward. You need to be put on the typical ADHD medicine. So let's stop everything else that you're taking and let's put you on the proper medication. For me, it is a very slow release methylphenidate, because ADHD medicine comes in different types. Not many, there are only 3 ways. So you have the methylphenidates, and then you have, so either stimulants or non-stimulants, and there is a category called others, when they start trying other things like the citalopram that I had. So for me, they put me on a stimulant because for some reason, because my brain is overstimulated, they still don't understand why, but when you have a stimulant, it actually just calms down your brain. So if a normal person were to take this medicine, they would go crazy focused and just become a bit weird. For me, it actually just makes me calm. So I have been taking for 6 days now. First thing in the morning, I just take a pill. I have the slow release one, because you can have, when it's fast release, it's called Ritalin. When it's slow release, it's called Concerta. There are additional names probably in different markets, but for me, I was put on Concerta because I just need that help for the long period of time, few hours during the day. So I take it first thing in the morning, and I kid you not, the first day that I had it, it felt like a fog cleared. And it was just weird, because I was thinking maybe it's a placebo effect. And at that time, I was still taking the citalopram, so it was a bit cleared fog, but I was very worried of having a serotonin syndrome, which is when you have so much serotonin in your brain that you end up having seizures or problems like that. Then I talked to the doctor, and she said, stop taking citalopram. So I stopped taking citalopram, and I feel good. I don't feel like I am changed. I just feel like I can have 2 or 3 thoughts at a time. I'm able to finish certain things, versus before I had 12 ideas popping in all the time. It was essentially fireworks in my brain all the time. I still have the same energy level. I still am able to do a lot of things and multitask, but I feel less of that urge to do so many things at the same time, to not be able to sit still and do a lot of things. I feel like I am able to finish my sentences. I'm able to let people finish their sentences. I have done a lot less of impulsive shopping, because during the day I'm very controlled. I always shop around midnight, which is why I had so many things that I was buying when I was very stressed. So now I do a lot less of the stress shopping. So yeah, I have become less impulsive. It's only been 6 days, but what I have noticed is that at 4 p.m. I just get a crash where I revert back to being my hyper self. And my understanding for now is that this is when the medication wears off. So I still have tomorrow to take my initial dose, which is 18 milligrams, and then as of the next day I'm going to take 36 milligrams, and then after about a month or so I'm going to go again and see the doctor to see how we're doing with that medication, right? And then whether I need to change the dosage or not. But for now I can live with actually having a bit of focus for a few hours. Usually for me it's about 8 hours, and then it just wears off, and then I go back to being my messy self. But even that actually helps me with planning my day. So I do a lot of my key tasks in the morning, and then in the afternoon I will do my emails, I will do some things like that don't require my absolute focus. And also my team know that now in the mornings they can rely on me for getting stuff done. So that is a very good thing for me in my life. It changed the quality of my life, and it's just almost a miracle given that it's only been 6 days. I will probably do a follow-up video in a few months, but I just thought I would share that. It's very important that you check with your doctors. It's very important that you get your heart checked, your blood pressure checked, your BMI, everything. But I also wanted to say that it's actually possible to do that. You just need to be really persevering. In my case, it took way over a year. It took about 14 months from the first time that I flagged it when I arrived to the UK to the actual time that I got a diagnosis, just because they wanted to check everything else, because there was a mistake when people actually forgot to send my results, and because they thought maybe it's something that can be solved with therapy. None of that works. If something is chemically imbalanced in your brain, then the only thing that can fix it is another chemical. I don't know how this is going to evolve. I think it should be about 3 or 4 months until I actually find my right dosage, until I can manage my new lifestyle, because I feel that I probably need to start eating less carbs, less sugar, and just try to have more consistent protein intake during the day, so that I don't get those crashes in the afternoon. But that is it. I just wanted to share my journey with you. I know that these videos can be hit or miss, because some people are interested in knowing these medical things. Some people think it's TMI. But for me as a foreigner, trying to navigate the system and understand how can you get the best medical care when people don't know your past, or where you come from, a culture that does not always acknowledge ADHD in women. It's just something that I find very useful. So that is it for today's video. A bit different from the other ones, but I hope that it will benefit some of you guys. If you are struggling with any type of health issue, don't give up. I had the same thing happen for me with my eyes, where we couldn't do anything to fix my eyesight, and then eventually I came across a doctor who would do the permanent implant. So listen to your gut, believe yourself. If you know something is wrong with you, pursue it, and good luck to everyone.